And before Jeremy Clarkson revs into top gear here on BBC Two, correspondent investigates a Japanese epidemic as hundreds of thousands of young men are turning into hermits.
In Japan, nearly 1 million young men have turned their back on the outside world. They are refusing to set foot outside their house. Many do not leave their room for years. 1 man in 10 in his late teens or early 20s is living as a recluse. It's called hikikomori in Japanese. It means to withdraw from society. At first, hikikomori sounded an almost comical condition, like a mega teenage sulk. In fact, it's a serious social disorder that only exists in Japan. Most sufferers live in the sprawling suburbs that surround Japan's major cities. After an hour's journey from central Tokyo, I joined our translator and researcher Mai. She told me that hikikomori is a highly sensitive subject in Japan.
It's been really difficult, but we have managed to set up a family to visit.
Parents often feel ashamed if their child has become a recluse. Affected families rarely discuss hikikomori openly. In these suburbs, silence surrounds a condition about which little is understood. A recent survey found that 3/4 of sufferers are male, in most cases the eldest son. The mother of a 17-year-old boy agreed to meet us. A few years ago, her son simply entered a room and refused to leave. We've spoken to the mother and she says it's fine for us to go into her house, but she's deeply concerned that our presence here will alert the neighbors that there's something wrong at home. She asked us to be as discreet as possible. The boy's mother, Yoshiko, owns a sweet shop. Her house is just behind the shop. She showed us the room her son never leaves. It used to be the family kitchen. She was nervous. We said her neighbors will never see this film, but she still didn't want to give her son's name. He uses a toilet adjacent to the kitchen, and his mother brings him food. He never sees his father or younger brother and sister. Until recently, the family had eaten takeaway food or cooked on a makeshift stove.
They built up a new kitchen about a month ago. Until then, so it was very hard.
Yeah, how long has he been in the kitchen and not come out?
キッチンはどれくらいの2 years.
2 years without leaving the kitchen.
2 years and a half.
2.5 years. Shall we go through there? Suddenly, Yoshiko noticed a customer arriving. She hurried us into the stockroom.
Please sit down.
I was struck by her determination that no one should discover her secret. Once the customer had left, she led us around the back to the entrance to the house. When did she last see him?
最後に会ったのはいつですか？
会った You might not call this seeing him. But I did hand over his meal at 9 o'clock. He won't let me into his kitchen. I can only approach him near the entrance just outside the kitchen. He's at the opposite end with a table between us. So I say, okay, here goes. And I throw the food to him.
Does he wash? Does he get his hair cut?
He cuts his hair himself when he takes a bath. He once asked for a pair of scissors. He takes a bath about every 6 months. He took one 3 weeks ago, so right now he doesn't smell as bad as he would otherwise. The toilet is nearby. He rushes down the corridor and it's right there.
An incident at school often triggers hikikomori. In this case, it was psychological bullying from another pupil.
He'd send letters to blackmail my son using someone else's name. There was a photograph of my son in the classroom, and he would stab a nail into it. He'd write my son's name everywhere to harass him. For a long time, my son couldn't figure out who was doing these things. He started to doubt his own brother and sister. He was that afraid and that scared.
An emotional problem at school was to remain unaddressed by family, teachers, or counselors. You look such a happy child.
These photos were taken in 1996. You can see the kind of boy my son was. When we learned who was doing all the nasty things, we thought we'd settled everything. We believed that everything was solved once and for all.
In fact, the problem became much more serious. Yoshiko's son spends most of his day playing video games. Their only contact is at mealtimes.
お昼どうする？ご飯ないんだけど、冷やし中華とかできるけど。知らない。そういう嫌がらせじゃないよ。トーストとかならできるよ。いらない。いらない。まだいらない？知らない。そうなん。もうちょっと後でいい？まだゲームが途中？ああ、途中っていうか。うん。途中とかないの？後でね。
When Yoshiko speaks to her son from outside the door, she's unable to see him.
He's just in the garbage somewhere.
There's so much garbage that, I mean, even if she looks in, you don't see him.
もうゴミがいっぱいすぎて見えない。
自分のね、触ったものを捨てられない。出せない外に。
He can't throw away what he touched.
So there's 2 years of garbage that's piled up
じゃ
there.
あ2年分のゴミ。
Yes. You want us to be quiet, okay? Yeah, okay, so we're being sent out now. inside. Apparently there are huge mounds of rubbish inside. But, you know, she doesn't know how he'll react if he knew we were here. Yoshiko's son had no symptoms of mental illness before he became a recluse. 2 years later, a family's life is ruined. After a few years, some hikikomori sufferers recover enough to re-enter society. Yasuo spent 3 years as a recluse. Now he's a counselor working for a parent support group. Families pay him to offer advice and sometimes talk to sufferers. He told me that a person can spend on average 4 years in seclusion before parents set aside their shame to seek outside help. Today, Yasuo was visiting a boy experiencing a severe case of social withdrawal.
It's one of the most difficult cases.
How long has he been in the bedroom?
引きこもってるのは2年ぐらいですけど、ただ両親との会話がなくなってるのは4年ぐらい。
There's no communication whatsoever.
No communication. コミュニケーション全然ない。
全くありません。
Not at all.
How does he eat or?
ご飯はどうやって食べてるんですか？
正直言うとわからないんですけど、本当に言うと生きてるということしかわからない。
Well, he doesn't know. Nobody knows. All they know is he's still alive.
Yasu then said that my cameraman and I shouldn't try to come along. He believed our presence outside the family's house would attract attention.
It's because of the neighbors. The family doesn't want the neighbors to know that somebody is visiting their house. It's very important to keep a secret from the neighbors.
というか外国人が来てるというだけでおかしいと思う。
It's very important to know that you are foreigners can stand up very easily.
Yasuo asked us to park some distance from the house. We then had to improvise. So while those two head off to the house where the boy in the bedroom lives, we have to stay here in the car, my cameraman and I. We've been told, in fact, we can't even go outside because we'll probably attract attention from prying neighbors. But what we've done is we've given Mai, our translator, a video camera so that she can record whatever happens inside the house. Mai was asked not to identify the boy's mother. Her son, Tomatsu, is 26. He became hikikomori after dropping out from university. She has not seen her son for 4 years, even though she sleeps in the next room. She knows he's alive because she hears the floorboards creak. Yasuo goes upstairs to show the boy that he's there, but believes it's too early in his counseling to talk to him. The strain has had its toll on the family. Tomatsu's parents are separating. A few days earlier, his mother talked to him through the bedroom door.
I spoke to him about custody. I said, you can choose either your father's side or mine, so please decide by yourself. Well, of course, there was no response from him, just silence as always. So I said, okay, I'll leave a note here. Please take either me or your father. When I came home later, I found my name totally crossed out. When I saw it, I was very shocked.
This is a definite improvement on what's been happening.
Yes, it is. He'd been ignoring me till then, so I should be pleased that he at least answered me.
Hey. When Yasuo and Mai returned to the car, they were cheered by the news that Tomatsu had responded to an outside influence. This is seen here as important progress.
Well, he can feel that he's getting better slightly.
And that's the first communication in years. Yeah. How is the mother dealing with this? I mean, how is she able to cope?
She hasn't heard her son's voice for a long time.
Yeah.
She just talked through the door. Talked him through the door.
But anyway, she sounded hopeful today.
でも今日少し彼女は嬉しかったというか。 She said she was really happy to get the reaction from him.
The problem remained hard to understand. I kept wondering why parents allow their children to remain in a room for so long. Yasuo's next case was a boy who'd remained in his bedroom for a year. Again, Yasuo wouldn't allow a foreign camera team in, only Mai. The boy's name is Akira. He's 19 and became a recluse after failing exams at school. Yasuo begins his counseling by placing the family at ease. He wants them to understand Akira's condition and treat him sympathetically. Yasuo then goes up to Akira's room. He hears a noise inside the room and decides to talk to the boy.
Hi there. I visit here sometimes, but please don't worry. I brought a present for you today. Ronaldo's Brazil shirt. It's only a replica, but please have it if you like. I'll leave it downstairs. See you.
What was his room like?
Very dark, no light. He wasn't wearing any clothes and was watching TV. It's summer, but it felt very strange to see him naked, watching TV. The atmosphere was very bizarre.
What did he say?
He was sort of smiling at me. I don't think he really hated being talked to, but I could tell that he wanted me to leave as soon as possible.
It's very hard for me to understand. This is a syndrome that exists only in Japan. What is it about Japan that makes so many people want to shut themselves away?
I think everyone has a different reason. The causes are complicated, so I can't give you an exact answer. In my case, I was stressed out by a competitive society. I became a workaholic. It's not that I wanted to become a hikikomori. I happened to end up as one. Japanese society is not capable of accepting people with different attitudes, so the lives of the people who are slightly different are very hard. If you drop out, there is nowhere to go, so the only place you can feel comfortable is in your house as a hikikomori.
This is Shibuya, the ultimate teen hangout in Tokyo, where youth trends are born and exported around the world. Japanese teens are growing up under a tidal wave of technology. Some spend more time communicating with machines than with people.
We have game machines, we have portable phones, With it, you can play games throughout the day. Media, in general, creates a virtual reality.
Mariko Fujiwara runs a think tank that studies youth trends in Japan. She believes teens have lost the skill to chat face-to-face.
You don't spend as much time talking to your friends, talking to your parents, talking to your colleagues, people in the neighborhood. In other words, instant entertainment, instant excitement, and this sort of stimulus replace the kind of human experience people were brought up for years and years.
The Shibuya district provides a release valve for young Japanese to go innocently wild. In their early teens, the pressure is enormous.
They're always working, always studying, always busy with their schoolwork, busy with the classes in cramming schools. With fewer children born into a family, if parents have some dreams or hopes for their children, if you are the only child, you are the only one who can fulfill that. So kids certainly feel pressured. And it's very much the parents' shortcomings that push their kids much too far, and kids suddenly say to themselves and to the parents, I've had it.
Mariko told me that most cases of hikikomori begin when a teenager refuses to go to school. So she suggested I visit what's become an institution in Japan, the cram school. More than half the children here attend cram school, usually before exams. They go in the evenings or at weekends, in addition to their normal lessons. At this school, there was a 3-day camp for 12-year-olds. The pupils work, eat and sleep at the school. Japan's education system underpinned its post-war prosperity, but recently its schools have had problems. Truancy has been rising. It's doubled over the last decade. At 10 o'clock, after 13 hours of studying, the children take an exam. When students are successful, their day is over. But many are not. Well, it's just past midnight and there's still more than a dozen kids who haven't passed the exam. They take the exam many times. If they fail, they go downstairs, they study and try once more. And this process just keeps on going until they all pass. Well, it's almost 1 o'clock now and there are still 3 students left trying to pass the exam. The last boy in the class finally scrapes through. In the dormitory above the exam room, he finds his bed. Well, it's now 1:30 in the morning, and finally everyone's come to bed. Everyone is sleeping in this room. We're all crammed together like sardines. And in about 5 hours, we'll be woken up again. And you'll guess it, there'll be more examinations for the kids to take in the morning. At dawn, the students begin to study for their next exam. I was exhausted after just one night here. The competitive pressure sometimes leads to bullying. A minority can't fit in. Some simply can't take it anymore. Counselors were only introduced in Japanese schools 2 years ago, and there aren't many of them. The country's rudimentary welfare system provides few channels to help pupils with emotional problems.
Hi, domo.
You're here?
Yeah, the house is just around the corner.
We'd arranged to meet a boy who had no one to turn to while he was at cram school. We've spoken to the parents of a boy, and he's been in his bedroom. He's been a hikikomori for about 2 years. But the good thing is that they say that they're happy for us to approach him and see if he'll talk to us. Once again, they insisted that we park our van on a nearby road and enter the house discreetly. Yukiku Sasaki's son is 22. 8 years ago, she sent him to cram school. He never went to school again. She makes dinner for the family, but her son is never at the table.
Japanese pizza. Japanese pizza.
Wow, really? It seemed like a normal Sunday afternoon in a suburban Japanese home. Mother's cooking dinner, father's watching television, about to take the dog for a walk.
He's
down there? Oh, he's in his box.
Oh.
The only oddity is that their son Hiroshi is holed up in a room upstairs. His father, who works long hours, went for years without seeing him. If you knocked on the door, tried to see him, what happens?
もしね、その時にドアを叩いてこう彼に会おうとするとどういうことが起こるんですか?
In the past, Kiyoshi didn't really relate to his son.
もう話したくないからそっとしておいてくれってこういう感じで。で、無理に開けようとすると怒る。
He would say that, leave me alone, don't talk to me.
The parents told me that they made mistakes when Hiroshi was younger.
中学入るとやっぱみんな塾に通わせたり。
When he entered secondary school, we made him go to cram school.
いろいろ勉強のことが。
We thought we should get him ready for his next entrance exam.
で、
The top priority was placed on his studies. We felt we should get him into a good school, and I thought he felt the same. I think we put too much pressure on him.
Back then, I felt I needed to do these things because I wanted my son to become the most brilliant student of all, academically.
How much have you been able to see of your son?
He'd sleep all day and stay up all night, so the time when I could see him awake was pretty limited. I had hardly any chance to talk to him. My son didn't want to see me. Well, that was how it seemed to me. I think that any child in Japan could easily become hikikomori. In a sense, the children out there are all susceptible. It wouldn't be strange for any child in Japan to withdraw from society. A little thing can set the stage for the child to become hikikomori.
Three plates are served. One is left on top of the stairs. While Mr. and Mrs. Sasaki are eating, we're going to try to speak to their son. He's up in his bedroom where he's been all day long. Now, he said that he would talk to us, but as his parents said, he has some good days, some bad. So we're not absolutely sure. Anyway, we're going to go up there now. Come on. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Can we come in?
入ってもいいですか？どうぞ。Okay.
Okay, come on in.
お邪魔します。こちらはソースなしで。いやいや、とんでもない。お邪魔します。
What's he been doing all day?
昨日ちょっと寝るのが遅かったんで、3時ぐらい、午後3時ぐらいまで寝てて、その後来た後ちょっとしてから勉強してました。
He went to bed really late last night, so he got up at 3 in the afternoon today.
Mike, can you get Hiroshi to show us some of the things he does in his room all day?
部屋でやられてどういうことされてるのか教えていただけますか？
ここら辺にある CD。
I listen to those CDs sometimes.
Yeah. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's his favorite. And over there, the comics.
好きですか？
結構。
Yes.
So you spend all day effectively in these small 4 walls that we're in now.
この小さな部屋でね、たくさんの時間、ほとんどの時間を過ごされてるんですよね。
はい。
How does that feel being here? Doesn't it feel like a prison, like a self-imposed prison?
なんかここにどうやって過ごしてどういう気分ですかって、まるでなんかこう牢屋の中にいるような気はしませんか？
でも一人の方が落ち着くんで。
But I feel comfortable by myself here.
結構快適だったりします。
It's very comfortable for me.
プレイステーションのがあったり。
I play PlayStation 2.
Hiroshi's parents provide whatever he needs in his isolation. He orders from the internet. Mostly it's video games. Play for what, 12 hours, 14 hours? Just carry on
12時
playing?
間、14時間、もうずっと一日中ですか？
そうですね。寝てる時がずっとやってるので。
Yes, except when I'm sleeping. He's playing Japan against Argentina.
It's about 2 years since I started to stay in this room all the time. Before that, I'd often refused to go to school, and there were times I stayed at home, but it's been 2 or 3 years since I started to stay in this room all the time.
So you go to bed early in the morning and sleep all day and are mostly up all night. I mean, why do you do that?
During the night, everyone else is sleeping, so I can be all alone. That way I can feel calm and comfortable. That's why I stay up all night.
Why do you think there are so many people like you, young men, who live in these small square rooms in Japan?
I guess there are many people who aren't good at communicating with other people. I don't know why, but that's how it is.
Do you have any answer to that?
Maybe it's because too much priority is put on schoolwork. As a consequence, people are having trouble communicating with their own families. Lack of communication is the problem.
Are you hopeful that one day you'll be able to leave this room?
I can't be sure, not just yet.
You can see that he probably would like this interview to end, wouldn't he? Yeah. Can you thank him for this? I think you've done really well. All right. You know, for letting us in. And good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen. Okay, I think we better wrap up. Yeah, okay. Now let's go. Do you want to say your goodbyes to? Yeah. All right, well, we're leaving. In Japan, if children refuse to attend school, social workers or courts rarely get involved. Most consider hikikomori a problem within the family rather than a psychological illness. And parents usually accommodate their child's request for solitude rather than seek professional help. I wanted to learn about the treatment of hikikomori. There is no government program here, so I saw the author who first used the term to describe a mental health disorder. Dr. Tamaki Saito is a psychiatrist. He estimates there are 1.2 million sufferers in Japan.
This is my recent book.
How to rescue your child from hikikomori?
Yes, this is a guide for parents of hikikomori.
What's the first thing they should really do then when they think their child's hikikomori?
Yes, I teach them to make your child relax in your home and accept your children's state and not to blame your child and try to communicate. I recommend to speak to your child every day. To say good morning and good afternoon or good night.
Even if the child's in the bedroom?
Yes.
You talk through the door?
From outside the door. Talk to your child.
Okay.
And if this process was successful, the child can get out home.
So there's no cure by forcing the child out of the bedroom?
Yes.
By dragging him out? That's not a cure?
Yes, that's not cure. That's a very bad approach to hikikomori problem.
Recovering hikikomori sufferers are now able to move to private residential clinics. The treatment remains passive. Counsellors believe a recluse should decide for himself when he's ready to leave home and receive care.
Good morning.
Dr. Henry Grubb is a clinical psychologist from Maryland University in the United States. He's researching hikikomori at a residential center west of Tokyo.
How are you today?
He's preparing the first academic study to be published outside Japan. He says young people the world over fear school or suffer agoraphobia, but hikikomori is a specific clinical condition that doesn't exist elsewhere. I spoke to Dr. Grubb during his lunch break and found that as a Western psychologist, he has a very different approach to the non-intervention method of his Japanese counterparts.
It's really hard to get a handle on this. How can a parent, knowing that just inside that door, that's a question I ask. My son, I've got a 12-year-old, I've got 4 grown children. My child is inside that door, and I don't see him. I mean...
You'd knock the door down.
Right. Simple. Walk in. Why don't you just go in that door?
And what do they say?
There's no answer. There's no
amazing,
answer, right. I mean, you get some excuses. He'll get angry. He'll make a fuss. I can't do anything with him anymore in the later stages, but the question remains, why didn't you go in the door in that first week? And then they tell you what people said, just give him time. It's a phase, he'll grow out of it. Time is the worst enemy of this child. As time goes on, it's harder and harder to leave that room. So month goes into month and year into year, and next thing they're in a room a decade. It is absolutely mind-boggling.
Japan's economic success after the war distorted the traditional family structure, creating a class of businessmen who worked long hours and rarely saw their children.
The modern society has kind of, one, stopped the father interacting with his child, taken away any skills that would give him prestige in the child's eyes, and left the mother to cope with one child. Another issue they talk a lot about is that because it's one-child family, the child lacks the socialization of the group at home.
Yeah. Lower birth rate now.
Right.
Yeah. So that child relates to the mother.
Alone.
That's the key relationship, and that can go badly wrong.
Badly wrong. And that's key for her, too. She is definitely codependent in this relationship because she keeps him in that room for 12 years. And if the parents don't have the skills or the coping mechanisms to help that child out of that room within the first week or two, you're going to see
an epidemic.
Yes, epidemic in the next few years.
Traditional Japan valued the nobility of solitude. Samurai warriors trained in isolation rather than be seen to be imperfect. Japan's social order retains feudal echoes, yet increasing numbers of young people feel they can't fit in. More and more are seeking the sanctuary of solitude. Yukiko Sasaki and her husband now realize they failed their son in the past. They've joined a self-help group for parents and hope that in the coming years, Hiroshi will enroll for university. Yoshiko's son has spent almost 3 years in isolation, but she's now made her first step towards approaching a counselor. The causes of this uniquely Japanese condition are complex, and Yasuro is now advising a growing number of families. You can comment on tonight's programme by visiting our website at www.bbc.co.uk/correspondent. Next week, Maori justice. Keisha assaulted a teenage girl, but instead of going to court, her punishment's being decided by her community. New Zealand's social experiment with kids and crime.
BBC One reveals the enigma of the pyramid.
Now BBC I offers you the chance to solve the riddle. With an amazing interactive quest. Unlock the secrets and discover the mysteries of Egypt for yourself.
Plus, everyone has a chance of winning a trip to the pyramids. To enter the challenge, go to CFAX, BBC I on the web, or Interactive TV now.
Linda Green's a bit of a dreamer. But don't worry, she wouldn't dream of changing. An all-new series with special guest stars.
You've landed your fish, then?
Put it this way, he's sniffing the bait.
Now that's our Linda.
Top girl.
Linda Green starts Tuesday at 9:30 on BBC One.
That was great.
Do you mean great in the sense that Winston Churchill was great?
And let's not forget Henry VIII. And Charles Dickens.
Yeah, what about Sir Isaac Newton?
Charles Darwin.
David Beckham.
Lord Nelson died for his country.
And Elizabeth I, who was married to it.
Sir Paul McCartney. What about Alfred the Great?
Who is the greatest Briton of all time, and what makes them so great? Great Britain's The Great Debate in 1 hour on BBC Two. Who will you vote for?
Some great motors first on BBC Two as Jeremy Clarkson returns to the driving seat of the all-new Top Gear.
This is a car programme. There will be no cushions. There will be no rag rolling. No one will sing, and at the end of the series, no one will have a recording contract. This is our new base. And this is our purpose-built test track. There are no traffic jams here, well, apart from this one, and no bus lanes either. This is Top Gear. And in the show tonight, I put two supercars head-to-head.
I'm going to ask you for £2,000.
Jason Dorr on what to do when car dealers attack.
£5 short of £3 grand.
But will that be enough? Richard Hammond will try to beat a speed camera.